Welcome into the Cowboys Report. I am Tom Downey. Adam Schefter has dropped a ton of 2025 NFL draft notes earlier this morning for ESPN. I want to break down the notable ones and, in particular, how that could end up impacting the Cowboys in the 2025 draft. Before we get to that, we are 368 subs away from 212,500 subscribers here on the show. We will have live NFL draft coverage for you as well. So if you haven't already, hit that sub button right now. Let's get in then to the Schefter draft notes here. The first few picks, and I don't think it's locked in stone, but I do, or in pen maybe. I think it's like they're starting to etch it into the trophy, so to speak. First few picks are going to be Cam Ward's going to go number 1 overall Tennessee. It's a done deal. It's happening. Unless a team blows him away with a shocking trade-off for last second, he's a Titan. Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter are going to go in the top 4. Sounds like Hunter's going to go 2. And then we'll see about where exactly Abdul Carter ends up going, because there is a chance still that Shadur Sanders ends up the pick with the New York Giants. They've done a lot of work on him, a ton of it, even dating back to last year. He's not the favorite at number 3. I think there's just general uncertainty, as we'll get into in a little bit, like where the hell is Shadur Sanders going to go? There is a chance he goes 3, but it sounds like it's more likely to end up being Abdul Carter in the end. Now, the first surprise could end up assuming if it's not Shedeur, then it probably goes, if Shedeur goes 3, then it's Carter 4. If Shedeur's not 3, it's Carter 3, Campbell 4. The Jags could potentially be the surprise team here. Many, including myself, as Schefter points out, have mocked Mason Graham to Jacksonville, who's still the betting favorite if you value that at all, which is fine. They're a wild card, according to Schefter. And there's a couple names, including Mason Graham, that have emerged as of late. It's also the week of the draft, and everything gets a grain of salt because it's lying season. You never really know what they're going to end up doing. Ashton Jeanty is one, amid some reports that maybe the Jags are trying to get someone to trade up, looking at Chicago and Dallas. I don't think would do it, period, to get Jeanty and snipe Las Vegas. And Tetairoa McMillan, which was specifically mentioned by Schefter as a potential fit for the talented wide receiver. The Jags taking T-Mac, by the way, I think would have a significant trickle-down effect. Where does Mason Graham go? If the Raiders don't take Jeanty, are they in play for an Armand Membu? What do the Jets end up doing? If the Jags took T-Mac, I think that's a significant trickle-down impact because I don't know anybody else is going to take him. General vibe, they're a threat to an extent, but Raiders looking at Jeanty and Membu instead. Maybe even Jalen Walker, dark horse for Vegas there. The Georgia duo could very well be in play for Carolina and New Orleans. They've been linked to trench players and defense more so. That would be a negative thing for Dallas because I think they'd like to have their pick of all the wide receivers, ideally at 12. So is Tetairoa McMillan on the board at number 12? Remember, this is a Liam Cohen-led offense that loves having wide receivers, and they want to be an air-it-out team. Is T-Mac on the board at 12? Pin comment on today's show, so if the ad comes here on YouTube, take advantage of it. Head down there and let me know. Y for yes, N for no. Let's go to Shadur Sanders again here. And exactly where he goes, nobody knows. As of now, this is kind of one of the great draft mysteries as we get going into round 1. There is uncertainty not only on who ends up taking Shadur Sanders, but when they end up taking him. The Giants and Browns pass on Shedeur, they could very well move back up into the back end, mid part of round 1, and take him. It doesn't sound like he's going to be a pick for the Browns at number 2 overall. The Giants, there's definitely interest, but is it at 3? Is it at 34? Is it a trade up? That's all very unclear too. The Saints allegedly like Jackson Dart a lot, which okay, go for it. Schefter says he thinks Pittsburgh is the floor. There's been some reporting that the interview didn't go well. There's been others. Where Shedeur goes, I don't know. The Cowboys should want him to go in the top 12 because that would push somebody down to them. It gives them another good player that's on the board that's going to be graded higher than where they have Shedeur. Dallas is not taking him. Don't start that nonsense. But where he goes is a pretty big question mark right now. Now, Schefter also mentioned several teams that would like to move down, and you'll notice there's a lot of them. He's got 8 teams a quarter of the league that wants to move down. He mentioned Denver's done some calls on working on potentially trading up. I would think running back would be their option there. Denver also likes to just know what the price tag is, so I'm not sure I'd fully buy that one as a likely trade up there. But it's Jacksonville, Carolina, San Francisco. Atlanta's light on draft picks. They'll probably go edge if they can't trade down. Seattle, Tampa, Pittsburgh has no second-round pick, but if they want to go Shedeur, they'll just take him there. Minnesota is the most obvious trade-down candidate in the NFL, maybe in history. They have 4 picks, and they have a GM that loves draft capital. They just traded up last year. I would bet you the Vikings try like hell to trade down, maybe even take less in that process. The question, though, is who wants to come up? It is not a draft, as Schefter pointed out, that is going to be a likely seller's market. I don't think there's going to be a lot of teams trying to trade up in this year's class. Today's show is made possible by Prize Picks. It is the best place to get in on the sports action and best place to turn your sports knowledge into cash. With millions of members, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to up to 2,000 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks. You can cash in on the basketball playoffs this year with Prize Picks. That's your last chance at your favorite players from the court to your Prize Picks lineups for points, rebounds, assists. James Harden, more than 24.5 points. Bogdan Bogdanovic, elite name, more than 3-pointers. Giannis with the more than a lower Prize Picks slate at 26.5. Get in on the action by going to prizepicks.com/CLNS. Download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. It's Prize Picks. Run your game. Let's continue with Schefter's reporting. The Jets picking at 7, obviously a team before the Cowboys there. Schefter's mentioned 3 players, I should say, as potential Jets targets. Armand Membu, Tyler Warren, very popular mock draft picks. Some growing buzz, the Raiders, which what Schefter also mentioned, could be in play for Armand Membu. Tyler Warren is an option there. And then he mentioned Jahdae Barron out of Texas as well, which would be a surprise at 7, but maybe could be a fallback option for them. I think if Mason Graham slides, that could also be in play for the Jets. The Saints, meanwhile, again, doesn't sound like QB's their plan. They want trenches. Several names mentioned. Offensive line, not because of Ryan Ramczyk. That was a known career's over from last year, frankly. But the trench play wasn't good anyway, so that's just kind of a need. And then he mentioned, Schefter did it, Jalen Walker and Mykel Williams. I wouldn't be shocked if in some combination, Walker, Carolina, Mykel to the Saints, or flip those two. That's a very real possibility in round 1. The Bears and Ashton Jeanty also stand out as a fit that the Bears would like to see happen. The report from Schefter was that other execs think the Bears are quote-unquote praying that Ashton Jeanty falls down to number 10, that they want to get him. They want to put him in the Ben Johnson offense. They've probably got him as one of the top 3 players in this class. That's me speculating, but I think it makes sense there. I think in general, if you wanted Jeanty, I think those dreams died a while ago. It just, with the way the board's going to fall, the class in general, some medical stuff for guys like Will Johnson, I don't see Jeanty getting past number 10. So if you harbor hopes, tell me the Dallas is not going to trade up for him, I don't think. Don't maybe give those up. Who do you want the Cowboys to draft in round 1? Let me know in the comments section of today's show. Some other notable player draft ranges from Schefter. He called Membu a top 10 lock. Feels like he goes maybe top 7 to the Raiders or Jets. Mentioned both Jahdae Barron with the Jets, Kelvin Banks Jr. to the Dolphins at 13. I think the Niners at 11 could be in play there too, as earlier than mocked likely outcomes. He's got the 20s, give or take, for Emeka Egbuka, so kind of a wide range there. And he also mentioned Carson Schwarzenegger, the UCLA linebacker, as a surprise round 1 pick. Wouldn't be shocked. It's, depending on how you count Jalen Walker as like edge linebacker, it's Jahad Campbell and Schwarzenegger, and a pretty big fall off after that. It is not a class that is full of elite top-end linebacker play. I think that's going to be a troubling point for a lot of teams. Which, like, how do we find the right player in this class at the off-ball linebacker spot? It's not particularly good. On my own personal board, by the way, I've got Campbell as a first, second, Pushinger as a second at 33 overall. The next best one for me is Demetrius Knight at 88 overall. A massive, massive fall. And then it's like Danny Stutzman, who I like. I can find guys in the fringe top 100, but like it's a huge gap and could very well end up pushing up somebody like Schwarzenegger. I guess I have a 33, so I guess we're in the right range there anyway. Finally, some lists of names that could be traded either during or maybe a little bit after the NFL draft. Some veteran names here that probably don't make sense for the Cowboys. Kirk Cousins, but maybe he gets dealt. Tight ends, Dallas Goedert, Mark Andrews are on the end of their contracts. They could end up going somewhere else. 2 corners who we've discussed before, Jalen Ramsey, probably too expensive. I'm curious what ends up happening with Jair Alexander. I think there's some general uncertainty at this point around what that board ends up looking like. We'll get to some younger names here in a second. But first, did the Cowboys trade for anybody during the NFL draft? 1 for yes, 0 for no. Let me know in the comments of today's show. The Seahawks are begging someone to trade for Sam Howell. Cowboys obviously aren't because they already got Joe Milton. Same with Will Levis. Couple running backs who Schefter mentioned, Travis Etienne, Rachaad White. Both those teams have a younger option that kind of outplayed them in Tank Bigsby and Bucky Irving, respectively. Those guys are near the end of their contracts. They could get dealt. Couple receivers. Kayshon Boutte, I think, is going to be the odd man out in New England. George Pickens. Every receiver who leaves Pittsburgh outside of Emmanuel Sanders gets crazier when he leaves, and he's already crazy, so I kind of don't want that one. Jalen Hyatt is another name that I know sometimes have been linked to the Cowboys there. I think the Giants aren't going to find much interest there. Nobody's trading for Treylon Burks. That's a please take him off our hands mindset. I don't think the Cowboys trade for Evan Neal. If I could bet on him being a Cowboy in 2026 after he's a free agent, I would take that bet, though. Like, that would not surprise me because the Cowboys loved him coming out, but he's been bad in New York. Kayvon Thibodeau, if it ends up being Abdul Carter and they already traded for Brian Burns, Thibodeau ends up being kind of the odd man out in New York, and they could try to flip him for an asset. Now, Tyree Wilson's been a disappointment, kind of a Dafe way too. Greg Newsome, which Browns have 3 good corners. They want to play Travis Hunter some there. You simply trade away Greg Newsome and free up some snaps that way.